I want to read to you guys what he said on January 28th when he made his testimony before he was sentenced 18 months by Judge Martini. So these are the court minutes that was taken on January 28th. And Tazadaqyah testifies, if you want to scroll down to page 72, you can see that he was allowed to speak on his behalf in front of the court. It's documented here. So the court says, okay, Mr. Grant, you can address the court. He can remain. Does he want to speak at the podium or does he want to speak from the chair? Okay. Defendant Grant, thank you, Your Honor. The court, good morning. The defendant. So this is Tazadaqyah. I'm moved by the process. And ever since I've been going through what I've been going through, I have learned a lot. I want the judge to understand that I entered into this organization as a child. I was only 14 years old. And to have a 14-year-old son now, the things that I was facing, I can't even imagine he being in the position that I was. When I entered this organization was a hate group. I repeat, when I entered this organization was a hate group. So here we have Tazadaqyah begging, groveling before the judge and the court, at the mercy of the court. He's pleading guilty. This is Jermaine Grant in rare form. It says, when I entered in this organization was a hate group. That was my education. That's what I learned. They wanted everything and I gave them everything. I left school and I did everything, and that's all I learned. Throughout the course of me growing up under this doctrine, my character understood that the things that I was learning wasn't part of my character. And I started to make objections and request that certain changes be made. In doing so, I made a lot of enemies. The only reason I'm bringing this up now is because I'm ashamed of something that was done during the plea agreement. I lost control and I disrespected the courtroom, and I want to apologize for that. I apologized to the marshals and I wanted to apologize to you. I attempted to do it during the second plea, and I would ask that you don't hold it against me that I have enemies. What are you saying, bro? Even in admitting his fault, he still has to put the blame on others. In trying to study more, I actually believed that I couldn't trust the government. I couldn't trust nobody. I was going to ignorantly try to defend myself because I didn't trust nobody. Double negative. This was my education. This was how we were brought up. And I think this is very important to understand. We didn't trust anybody. I made a lot of fundamental changes within this organization, and that made a lot of enemies. I don't know what he's talking about there, about the enemies. He's mentioned that 3 times now. The changes that he made, knowing that it was a hate group, was just minor changes that still kept the congregation in check and didn't look too much like a hate group. But he still tightened the grip on the cult and had us under heavy mind control. He definitely studied some mind control tactics, and here he's appealing to ignorance, and he keeps bringing up enemies. So this is a very weird, guilty testimony. Coming across my studies of trying to see what kind of case I can make for myself, which I understood absolutely nothing, I came across a comment by a Supreme Court justice that made me feel good about that. It's okay to have enemies. Worded kind of weird, but that's how he talks sometimes. If you make enemies for the right reasons. And that comment was, a man that have no enemies may possibly not be a very good man. First of all, the grammar's messed up there. A man that has no enemies. A man that has no enemies may possibly not be a very good man. I don't know what the hell that quote is, but let's keep reading. I felt good because nobody wants to have people that hate you and that rejoices at your calamities, your poor decisions. What had happened, Your Honor, is once I got my lawyers that I got and they explained to me what the case was all about, They explained to me what the charges was, and I clearly seen that I did what it is that I was being charged with doing. I took no problem in wanting to enter a guilty plea because I wanted to take responsibility for what I have done. So this is Tazadaqyah being his sneaky self, saying that he came into a hate group, he didn't trust the government, and his education was wrong. His lawyer, he loves his lawyer. His lawyer helped him see things, but he wasn't talking like that in the video that the icgjc posted on the comforter.info recently, where Tazadaqyah is actually talking about the coronavirus. So let's continue reading. I have learned how society works, which again, forgive me for my ignorance. Now, he must have said ignorance like 20 times in this whole testimony. We're on page 74. Which again, forgive me for my ignorance. I didn't learn for most of my life in this organization. I learned very little. All I knew to do was to be good to people and treat people the way they treated you. It started to grow. I tried to find ways to bring money in. I set up this is to the $1 million questions. I set up these businesses and these different things hoping that it would be successful. I had no idea how successful the religious organization would be. It just grew so fast. And all of my time that, I devoted most of my time to the religious organization and had very little time to devote to anything else that I had started with good intentions. I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to give up. I always believed that I could come back and still do what needed to be done. It was ignorant and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing, but I tried to do the right thing. But when I found out what I did and I didn't go about doing things right, when I found out that I was guilty of the stuff that I was being accused of, I was happy to negotiate a plea deal because I wanted to take responsibility. I wanted to take responsibility for what I did wrong. So he's admitting that he did something wrong, but he's still appealing to ignorance, and he was bringing up those enemies earlier. I had no idea that my actions would put my children in this situation that they was in, the humiliation. I'm humiliated and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of being ignorant. Man, appealing to ignorance. Page 75. I'm ashamed of the fact that my children have to be humiliated. When I broke the news to them that I may be taken away from them, I raised my children all my life, and I never seen them cry as hard as they cried. Every last one of them, and it broke my heart that I did that to them. I would have never willfully put them in the position where they had to go through that much pain. But that was the problem, is that you actually did know what you were doing, Tazadaqyah, and you did put them in that position. And you're just using your children as a way to appeal to emotions, to try to get some emotions in this situation and get your argument emotionally charged. I apologize to the congregation. So he's apologizing to the congregation in court. He's never going to admit anything in the congregation amongst his followers. That's not going to be a good look. Me believing that people should be treated the way that they treat you, and that goodness changes people. The fact that they had to go through the humiliation that they had to go through as members of this organization. Again, hearing stuff like this is a sham is very hurtful to me, and I apologize. It's very hurtful. Listen, man, this cat is a sneaky ass double agent. This guy knows how to talk to individuals. He knows how to be one way to a certain individual. He knows when to be remorseful and to bow his head. But this is all because he knows he has no power at this point. He's not in the congregation. He's not amongst his members. He's not amongst those people that he can push around. So this is where he's lying, because he knows that it's a sham. He knows what he was doing. I mean, nobody is benefiting from the money. It's all going straight to Tazadaqyah's pockets. I thank God that they still stand by me and accept me. But I apologize for all the stuff that they had to go through because of my ignorant actions. One of the most things that I learned throughout this process, one of the most important things that changed me more, is the humanity of the people that I thought hated us, which was the government. I mean, the way I was treated by this IRS agent right here, Joseph, he's seen something that was done and that was said to me, and he came up to me and he treated me like a human being, not somebody who was a criminal element. And he apologized to me for what somebody else did, the way I was treated by pretrial, Camden, New Jersey, the respect, the humanity, the decency, the care when I was sick. When I got to the point where I was under house arrest and I got depressed, where even to the religious services and these things, I didn't want to leave the home. And they checked on me and asked me about my health and asked me, was I okay? And always treated me with respect. I never expected that from anybody in government. My lawyers, I love them. They care. They not just hired people to do a job. They care. Your Honor, when you granted the request for me to do what I need to do religiously, it shocked me and overwhelmed me. I didn't think that anything was going to be granted. I never requested a lot of things because of that reason. And when the approval came back, I was overwhelmed. So there you go. It's showing you that they're not trying to destroy the church. So yes, I wish I was not in the process, but this process has fundamentally changed me. I see a side that I think I would have never saw of people that respect you. The process that they allow you to go through. I'm ashamed that the back and forth has to go because of my actions. So I did my best to try to learn. I like to know what's going on and not just be ignorant. I went through sentencing guidelines. I was trying to understand that. Lawyers explained it to me as best as possible, and I don't really get it. I heard about throwing yourself on the mercy of the court. I don't know what that is. I didn't see that nowhere in the sentencing guidelines. But what I do know about mercy is mercy rejoices over judgment. And mercy is usually granted to people that don't deserve it. And I ask Your Honor for mercy. I know I don't deserve it. I ask Your Honor for leniency. I know I don't deserve it. What I learned about mercy is kind of like a doctor that prescribes medication to a patient, where the benefits outweigh the side effects. I have been completely compliant with pretrial services. I have never given any problem. I have showed that I respect the law, that I can respect the law, that I can abide by the law, and I will abide by the law. I have done everything that I think was required of me to put the church in compliance, to make sure that this happens to nobody else ever again. And for my children, I don't deserve it, but for my children, I ask you to consider mercy. For the congregation and I ask you to consider mercy. And that's it. Thank you.